Igor, how do you say your last name?
Gariev.
Gariev? Okay. Let me know when you're ready there, Josh. I'll just speak loudly into it. Is it good? All right. Hi, everyone. For the sake of the camera, this is the San Francisco PHP Meetup group. Today is January 9th, I believe it is. Tonight we have Igor Gariev. Yes. Speaking static code analysis tools for PHP. Sponsors tonight, vast majority of it. Big thanks to AppDynamics. Really nice new facilities they have here. They provide the pizza, beverages, all that kind of good stuff. Mashery is sponsoring my time and Jacob's time. Jacob can't be here tonight. He's on an airplane somewhere. What else? We have O'Reilly as a sponsorship. We have one book to raffle off from them. We have $200 or $300 worth of Amazon credits to raffle off, and a $2,000 Google App Engine coupon as well. Unfortunately, they don't work if you already have service, but if you don't use them, it's a great way to get a lot of money to really test it out. Upcoming events, I'm going to try to throw together something small in February. Don't have a lot of time to prep for it, but we want to do something then. Probably be second week of February if we do. March 5th, we have Sarah Goldman. She's going to be talking to us about the hip-hop virtual machine. They've been making a lot of really good changes. It's really quite interesting where that thing's ended up. We had somebody talk about that like 2 years ago or something, so we're going to see what else is new. That'll be over at Mashery on Market Street, or perhaps Digital Garage right next door, depending on how many people RSVP. Upcoming events, there's a lot of PHP conferences coming up. It's conference season. A lot of call for proposals are still open, so if you want to give a speech, give a talk, do them now. PHP Tech, was it the one in, what's the other one in Texas? Lone Star. Yes, Lone Star is open for another couple of days. Stuff like that. So check them out. I think that's everything. Dustin from AppDynamics is going to say a little something real quick, and we'll turn it over to Igor after that.
Yeah, so I just wanted to let you know a little bit about what AppDynamics does. We do application performance monitoring for PHP. So you can just add us as an extension. We'll automatically figure out what does healthy look like in your application. And when performance starts to degrade, we'll tell you what actually happened. So slow web service, slow database, slow PHP calls, etc. You can try it for free. So appdynamics.com/free, and you can get started today. And here to you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, do you hear me? Perfect. Do you see? Do you see me? Nice. Okay, thank you for coming. Okay, my name is Igor. I'm relatively new to PHP world. About 2 years ago, I moved to San Francisco, joined Zynga, and started working in PHP. And today I'm going to discuss a couple of tools that help me in my work. Oops, and nothing is here. So just a couple of words about terms. There are dynamic tools that tries to run your code and do some metrics like unit test or security or whatever. And there are static tools that just analyze source code of your project and tries to get some valuable info like metrics, how many commands per file do you have, or how big are your functions. They can create documentation or UML diagram of classes of your project. And the last item, and the most important for today's presentation, is that they can find errors in source code. So I'm going to talk how to install these tools, how can they benefit your work, and so on. But actually, I'm going to talk about this code. It's PHP code, it's less than 20 lines, and it does not work, and you see why. Do you? Time. Just a couple of hints. It's not about semicolons. This code compiles OK. It runs OK with strictest error reporting mode. It reports nothing, but it just does not work as expected. There is no syntax errors. Any ideas? Hmm? Oh.
It's hard to read from a distance because you're looking at each line of code and you're jumping around.
Oh, sorry. Okay. Yes, 40 seconds, perfect. It took more than 2 minutes for me, sorry. Perfect result. Yes, this code doesn't work because the second loop is executed exactly 0 times. Because this code initializes some array at the top, then it rates this array here, and in the middle, it fills some other array. No warnings, no issues, it just doesn't work. Well, it was not a very pleasant experience with PHP at first, so I wanted a tool that can find errors like this in my project. Then the first game I joined in Zynga, it was Cityville. It was a game with 70 million of users. We have about 40 or maybe 50 developers. We have every day 2 or 3 production releases, and on Fridays we have only 1 or 2. So it was a really busy environment, and I wanted a tool that works on big code bases like this, and for big teams like my Cityville team. Well, there are 2 parts in my presentation. In the second part, I'll discuss some of the tools that I tried, and they did not work well for me. So I decided to write my own tool. And first part will be about my Xref lint tool. Other tools didn't work for me, but it doesn't mean that they won't work for you, because I'll show that lints are very sensitive to code style of your project. So the other tools may be perfectly fine for you. But okay, the other reason why I decided to write a tool myself, because it was a lot of fun. If your job is to find errors, then the program that will do the job for you, it is much more fun. So why it's difficult in PHP? Most languages has some syntax constructs for declaring variables. If you try to reference an undeclared variable, it's an error. It will be easily caught by a compiler. You can fix it, that's all. Not so in PHP. There is no syntax at all for declaring variables. And so it's possible to create some comments or some extra tags. I didn't want to do that. We have a lot of existing code, and I didn't want to rewrite it. So we cannot rely on any declaration syntax. However, there is another construct, initialization of a variable, and this can be used. So any reference to an uninitialized variable is an error. Then the good thing about PHP is that ships with built-in tokenizer. I can feed PHP source code to it and get a sequence of tokens. And if I have a sequence of anything, I can apply a finite state automaton to it, and it's really simple. So this was done during the weekend. It worked amazingly. It was helpful, but it depends on the code style of your project. Yeah. Hmm? Sure. Mm-hmm.
You had before, the very first one,
Okay, it is.
Isn't there an error mode that will at least emit some warning?
No.
Estrict will warn you if you're
No.
using a clear variable?
Well, I will talk about this a bit later, but the code here auto-verify array. And auto-verification of array is not an error at all. There is no notice, there is no warning, regretfully. Well, auto-verification is, well, there is initialization of an array, like line 5 here. And there is creating array by assignment to element. And the second construct is called auto-verification, and it's not detected. Yes. Well, today I'm going to show a lot of bad PHP code, but if anyone has a story, no time, sorry, later. Mm-hmm. So, this simple mix of building PHP tokenizer and fin state automaton worked for me and for Zynga code. But there are different flavors of PHP in real world. This example is from WordPress, and they introduce a new variable into scope just by including a file right in the middle of the function. This code is not really validatable, so it really depends. Do you use such constructs or not? Well, auto-verification, the example I started with. There is a difference between initialization a variable and auto-verification it. So any operation that read and create variable, for example, for scalars, or for array operations that create elements will create a variable. It's not a warning in even in strict reporting mode in PHP, but xreflint will issue warnings for this code. Well, it's not limited to variables only. If you have a tool, you definitely want to extend it, and there are many different errors in PHP. For example, how many errors in the code here? Okay. One, agree. It may be defined or maybe not, because we don't know where this file is included. Mm-hmm. There is no dollar sign, yes, here and here, or maybe. Well, but actually this code can be perfectly correct. Well, now, exactly. It can be a constant defined somewhere else, and if it's not, it will be treated as a string literal. So this code can be can be correct, but still xreflint will issue 2 warnings here, because it's definitely a discouraged practice. Well, so far I've discussed errors that are local, that you don't need a lot of source file to find it, like variables or these string literals. But in big projects, More errors come from inconsistency of the project. When one file references a function in another file, and or one class extends another file, one class extends another class that's defined in different file. These errors are much low. Will be left uninitialized. It's really easy to spot the problem here, but in practice it can be done by different people in different files, and worst of it, in different branches. So one developer can modify a parent class and all known to him or to her child classes in his or her branch. Another developer adds a new child class in another branch. Both branches are consistent. When they are merged together, they issue no merge conflicts because different files were modified, but the project doesn't work. Why? That's why. The bad thing is that can happen in practice, and the good thing is if you install lint tool, it can be caught. Well, I promise this is the last example of bad code for today. What's wrong with this code? Yes, yes. Thank you for smiling. Once it took us about 2 hours to find the similar error, but it was practically invisible byte order mark in the beginning of the file. I was surprised to know that VI, my editor of choice, doesn't show byte order marks at all. Yes, this file doesn't contain PHP code, but it does not mean that it has no errors. It has. It has a new line before opening tag. And according to PHP rules, this new line will be sent to client. And if it's somewhere inside HTML document, it will be invisible. It will be okay. But many Zynga games use client-side written in ActionScript and server written in PHP. And they communicate with each other in binary protocol. And this new line placed into binary stream will result in really weird errors. Oh, and extra bonus. If your unit tests consist only of functional tests, this error is invisible. Okay, so I have a great tool. It was able to catch, I think, about 20 errors. it was good, and we easily deployed it to production, right? No. The problem with command line tools is that someone has to run it. And if you work in a team of 50 people, then everyone must install it and run and maintain. But people who were excited by the tool and people who did most of the mistake in the project, they were two disjoint sets. So it did not work out. The next attempt was to include this tool into a continuous integration service. It was more promising. We already have Jenkins server, but before build succeed, we must have cleaned all the errors in the code. And the first time I ran it, it was about somewhere between 1 and 200 of the notices, errors, and remarks for the code. Well, there were two problems. First, we did not find a volunteer to fix that many errors in production code. The second is more important. Well, I started my presentation with example of some code that did not work, but at least it was harmless. We could modify it, but there is no guarantee that code that did not execute it before would start execute and introduce real bugs. And it's a question of priorities. Smoothly running application is a priority. Happy players, 70 million of them, is a priority. And nicely, what can I do? What if the tool report not all errors, but only only the errors that introduced by the latest changes? So if we have a repository, we have a history of commits, and we can check the state of a repository before and after. And for each state, create a list of errors, use diff-like algorithm to find new ones, and if there are new errors, report only them. And it worked. Here, I had to part from Jenkins, because Jenkins really doesn't have a notion of history. Well, so I call it Xref continuous integration service, but in reality, it's just a cron. It's just a script that's run by cron. It pulls the updates from our Git repository, and if something gets wrong, just sends email notifications. The right part is our regular workflow. It's not modified. No developer needs to install anything. And this tool is more like safety net. Do what you usually do, and if anything goes wrong, you will be caught. Something like that. Well, this tool was never enforced at our Zynga team. But about in 1 week since its introduction, we very soft tool. I can, if I got this email message, I can ignore it. Right? But what would happen if I commit my changes to master branch? My errors will get into master. Then every person in the team who updates their branches from master will get these errors in their branches, and they will receive email notifications too. And if I work in a really big team, my changes to code can be invisible for a long time. But once every member of team starts to get notifications about my errors, all my not so optimal code is visible for everyone. And after people get it, we got no new errors. Well, I tried to make it as easy to use as possible. It's mostly there is a command line interface, and here's some instruction how to install it. The second step is optional, but it's useful. It index files for better for speed, for performance, and there is a rather extended help in command line. There is online documentation too. And as I said before, what's acceptable and what's not in your project depends only on you. So there is no one size fits all. And I tried to make this tool as much configurable as possible. So different reporting levels, you can disable individual errors. So I hope you can accommodate this lint tool for any project. Well, but when I researched the best lint tool for my projects, I met a lot of other projects, and they're interesting. And now I'd like to show them to you. Well, first of all, it's PHP Storm. It's not a lint tool. It's IDE, but it's a really good one. You cannot use it for continuous integration, but it's interactive, and in my opinion, this is the best tool. Okay, the next project is PHP parser. It's not a lint either, but it's interesting. It's a parser for PHP written in PHP. It's fast. It's generated by YAG Bison, and I like the approach the author of this tool used to create this parser. By default, YAG and Bison doesn't generate code for PHP. They are mostly C and sometimes Java tools. But these guys took standard PHP tokenizer, took table shift reduce table from the parser generated by YAG Bison, and created a very fast and efficient PHP parser. If you need a parser for any other language, and you are restricted to use PHP only, because, say, for a hosting environment, this is a very viable approach. This library ships with some scripts like a formatter, and if you want to modify big projects of code in any way, let it be your friend. Well, PHP lint, this is the oldest one. It can parse even PHP4 code. It's fast, it's written in C, but I could not use it because it enforces its own version of PHP language. For example, this is the PHP code annotated especially for PHP parser. There are extra annotations for types, and without them, PHP lint issues a lot of warnings. When I tried it on our code, I got a ratio about 1 to 50. 1 real error and 50 false positive warnings. So it's interesting, but I don't know examples of successful deployment to production, because no one wants to write their code in this flavor of PHP. Well, this tool is from Facebook. It's written in OCaml. It's fast. It's more than a lint tool. But it has two issues. It does not support Notion for installation of variables by functions. Like here's an example. For preg match returns the list of matches in third argument. It's quite common not to initialize this variable. It will be initialized by the function call, but check will raise error on this line. And if you look into open source Facebook own code, they always initialize these variables. So if you're ready to modify your code to this standard, it's tool for you. Yeah, sure. Hmm? Yes. That's correct. I don't know. Did Facebook first invented this code style and then create their own lint for this code style, or did they have to modify all the code for the lint tool? It's like a chicken and egg problem. This construct is specific only to Facebook's code. I haven't seen it in other projects. Well, Scrutinizer and PHP Analyzer. It's a very new tool. It was released just the last year. And for accuracy of report, it takes the first place. For this presentation, I ran this tool on my own project and found out that, for example, number one, Scrutinizer can detect unreachable code and unused variables. And in the first example, the variable options is not used. So the advice of Scrutinizer was to remove this variable and use special syntax. I think it's the only place in PHP where you can see two commas one together. This second example is, I did not know, but apparently there is some issue with reflection and APC, and advice from Scrutinizer was to modify this line of code because of. So I got an error message with link to a PHP bug report. Drawback is that this tool is very slow. For example, when I run Xref tool on itself, it checks in about 4 or 5 seconds on this machine. Scrutinizer took 12 minutes. So it's not a really command line tool, but it has continuous integration mode, but it's not free. It starts from about 50 euros for small teams and much more for big teams. And the last tool, it's another tool that originally was developed at Facebook. It's Fabricator, and actually it's not a lint. It's more like a code collaboration tool. It's very similar to what GitHub did to Git repository with pull request flow. You can modify your code, send the request, other people will review, comment, and merge it. And Fabricator works not only for Git, but for SVN and Mercurial repositories. And there is a tool, command line tool named Arcanist that sends your modified code for review. And one of the options, not very well documented, allows you to run different third-party lint tools on your source code. And they support a really big list of languages, including JavaScript and CSS and Python. And if you want a lint tool for other languages than PHP, it's the best place to start. For some reason, it ships with disabled lint tool, and there is no documentation how to turn it on, so I create some documentation. Well, yeah, it's good and it's fast, and the only issue is that it does not check your project as whole. It checks only one file after another. So cross-reference errors, like missed call to constructor, will be unnoticed. Hmm? It's well, it's better to visit the website. So as I understand, they created small startup, especially for this tool. Well, as I earlier said, there is no single tool for that will suit all projects, because lints generally work in some gray zone. They work on syntactically correct code that may or may not have errors. So you may spend some time choosing the best lint for your project. But in my opinion, it's definitely worth it, because you get another tool to make your code clean, consistent, and error-free. Well, thank you.
Questions?
Oh.
And if you can be sure to repeat your questions too, please.
Sure.
The project that you wrote, does it work on, you said that it would work on a staging branch and a production branch. Would it also work in a scenario like GitHub pull requests?
Okay. This tool, okay. The question was about integration of my tool and Git or GitHub repositories. Right? The answer is it checks every branch and every commit in every branch, and performance is the performance of the tool is more than enough to do that. Second, in my opinion, it's too late to check integration or ready to production branches. The errors should be reported as early as possible. That's why all development branches are checked.
So the project scanning mode,
Yes.
that will have, if it's a large project that touches a lot of data and that can become a performance issue depending on the size of the project. Like what's the largest code base that you try throwing at it and see?
The question about performance of the project checked mode on big projects. Well, the Zynga code I work on is about 2,000 files. I don't know how many lines there is. And with enabled cache, it's checked in less, I think it's about 10 seconds. 10, maybe 20. To find errors in the lint tool itself, I run it on different projects, and it took some time for parse the Symfony code. But again, with cache on, it takes less than 1 minute, maybe faster. Yeah, it's a challenging task because parsing of files is expensive, and to make two-pass check fast, I have to parse each file only once and store some intermediate info. And on second step, analyze this info only. Sure.
Did you write it in PHP or C++?
It's PHP. Which language the xreflint is written in? It's PHP, and it's done intentionally because, well, in my opinion, it will benefit mostly the novices, like I was some time ago. And the less dependency this project has, the better it is. The easier it is to install.
Question is, earlier you showed configuration options. Do you set those in PHP INI or in a file that's generated by the code, code analysis?
Can you repeat the question, please?
It's a quick question about
Set the configuration options.
how to set configuration options. Well, there is a ini file that's generated by default by this init command, but actually the lint tool can work without configuration file. You can override any settings from command line.
So I didn't catch that. So is it separate configuration INI file?
Yes, there is a separate configuration file, and you can override or completely replace the configuration by command line options. The list of the defines what can define is printed by this command, help defines.
More questions?
Good.
What's the highest version of PHP for all of them?
Starting from PHP, which version of PHP is required for this tool? Starting from PHP 5.2, because some of the old Zynga code use PHP 5.2. It can parse up to 5.5, I guess, but I don't have a lot of unit tests for this version of PHP because I don't use it yet. Scrutinizer requires 5.4, and this is a problem, at least for me, because of not all host environments supports 5.4.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.